Have you ever wondered how a few lines of simple text can suddenly become your favorite app or even power a complex AI? Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to see exactly how plain code gets transformed into reality using Python. Let's dive in.
So let me ask you a question. Think about three of the biggest fields in tech right now. The websites you use every single day, the data analysis that's shaping business decisions, and, of course, the artificial intelligence that's literally changing the world. They seem totally different, right? But what's the one invisible thread that ties them all together?
You guessed it, it's Python. This one single language has become the quiet powerhouse behind the scenes, driving so much innovation in so many different places. It really is the secret sauce in a ton of the apps and services we all use every day.
Which, of course, leads us to the big question for our first section. Why Python? I mean, what is it about this language that makes it so dominant, and why should you care?
Well, its reach is just massive. I mean, from building websites and crunching numbers to automating boring tasks and being the #1 choice for AI, Python is everywhere. So what's the magic? It really comes down to two things. First, its syntax is so simple and readable, it almost feels like you're writing in plain English. And second, there's a huge community building incredible tools that let you create pretty much anything you can dream.
So, how does it actually work? Okay, let's get into the basic building blocks. Think of these as the fundamental ingredients of Python. These are the core concepts that literally everything else is built on top of.
And this is where just about every single programmer starts. The print function. It's like your first simple conversation with the computer. You're just telling it, hey, take this text and display it on the screen. It's that classic first step to make sure everything's working and your code is, alive and listening.
Okay, now here is something that makes Python really unique and maybe a little weird at first. Indentation. In most other programming languages, the spaces you put at the beginning of a line, they're just for looks, to make it neat. But not in Python. Oh no, in Python, those spaces are the actual grammar of the language. They tell the computer which pieces of code belong together in a block.
And you can see it perfectly right here. On the left, that print statement is pushed in with some spaces, so Python knows it belongs inside that if statement. But on the right, that one missing indentation, and boom, you've got an error. So that's the key takeaway here. In Python, structure's everything, and it's all defined by simple white space.
All right, next up, variables. Honestly, the easiest way to think about a variable is just as a labeled box. That's it. You give the box a name, let's say age, and then you put some information inside it, like the number 20. Now, anytime you need that piece of information, you don't have to remember the number, you just call the box by its name, age. Simple as that. So what kind of information can we actually put inside these boxes? Well, there are a few main types. You've got integers, or int, for whole numbers. You've got floats for any number with a decimal point. You've got strings, or str, for any kind of text. And then you have booleans, which are just a simple true or false. These are really the fundamental ingredients you're going to use all the time. Okay, so we've got our ingredients. Now for section 3. Let's see how we can actually make our code think. This is where things get really cool, because we're going to start combining our building blocks to perform actions and, more importantly, make decisions. So, if our data types are like the nouns, then you can think of operators as the verbs. They're the action words, the tools we use to actually do stuff with our data. We've got the ones you'd expect, right? Addition, multiplication, but then we have some more specialized ones like floor division.
And check this out, this one's kind of cool. Floor division. So normally, if you divide 5 by 2, you get 2.5, right? But with floor division, Python does the math and then just throws away anything after the decimal point. It chops it right off. So you're just left with the whole number, 2. It's actually a super handy little tool in a lot of situations.
Doing math is great and all, but the real power of programming, well, that comes from making decisions. So how do we get our code to actually react differently based on the situation? How does it choose which path to take when it comes to a fork in the road?
We do it with something called conditional logic, and it works just like a ladder. The code starts at the top and checks one condition at a time. So first it asks, are the marks 90 or above? If the answer is yes, great. It assigns the grade A and its job is done. But if it's no, it just moves down to the next rung, the elif, which just means else if, and it asks the next question. Okay, well, are the marks 75 or above? This if-else structure is the absolute bedrock of how code makes choices.
So, we've seen all the individual pieces. Now, for our last section, let's put it all together and connect this stuff to the real world. How do these simple little concepts actually solve real, tangible problems you might face every day?
Okay, here's a problem I'm sure we've all run into. A super messy file name. Look at this thing. It's got extra spaces at the beginning and the end, some weird capitalization and spaces in the middle. It's just ugly, and it can cause all sorts of problems for computer systems.
Now, check out the Python solution. This is so cool. It's called method chaining. In one single, elegant line of code, we're telling Python to do 3 things in order. First, strip off all those extra spaces from the outside. Then convert the whole thing to lowercase. And finally, replace every space in the middle with an underscore.
And voila, there's our result. A perfectly clean, standardized, predictable file name. This is one of those fantastic aha moments, right? It just shows how a few simple commands, when you chain them together, can do something incredibly powerful and practical in an instant.
And this kind of logic, it's not just for file names. It is literally everywhere. It's the same fundamental thinking that checks your username and password when you log in, or decides whether to grant or deny you entry based on a set of rules, or that can scan a huge document and pull out all the dates, or instantly clean up a messy list by getting rid of all the duplicates.
So there you have it. We've gone from a simple hello all the way to cleaning up real-world data. You've seen the core building blocks, the variables, the logic, and the actions. So now the only real question left is, what problem are you going to solve first?